Salutations, fair viewer, for another glorious podcast from your fantastical host that has been absent for quite some time from the scene. Now we got a very few important discussion to talk on the emerging form of entertainment created by those creative minds on those picture show sharing platforms where we've been seeing the weird and wonderful style of characters appear in many forms, from the vibe of making people smile, the basis of everyday life, and many more in the pipeline of entertainment purposes courtesy of those picture shows you see online. But today we're talking on the most recent success as spawned from a popular pilot from all of those years ago, has now got under construction, is now open for business and ready to serve as we all be checking into the all-new and improved establishment of the Hazbin Hotel, a delightful place that stands tall overlooking the Underworld. But I bet you are wondering, dear listeners, what are your thoughts on the whole ordeal? Well, I could say that it may have taken a while, but it's surely a pleasant visit to spend a surefire happy day in hell, and I will tell you why in multiple different parts, so stay tuned, dear listener. Also, I apologize for the voice. I want to do it in the form of a different kind of a stag to it, like I'm doing a mediocre video podcast.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
Now, like most locales and denizens of any locations on the surface world, the gates above or the pits below, there is sure to be any form of story to be told, and this form of entertainment for your little balls of vision will surely see that with the plot that is presented for your viewing pleasure. Set in the deep era of hell in an attempt to find a non-violent alternative for reducing hell's overpopulation from the inhumane killing by executioners from above, the young daughter of Lucifer opens a rehabilitation hotel that will offer the denizens of the city a chance of redemption, of racing to the place in the sky, and with the help of some colorful characters will find a way to prove that it can be possible even in a place like hell. Now, with any form of story like this, it can be potential of underdoing it or overdoing it, or not giving much of an effort to tell the story. But I think what they have here so far in the first ideal is a great idea of a setting in the underworld of hell. A fabulous place of miscreants, evildoers, and misunderstood lunatics, and find a way to show that people have the good of them, if they can find it, no matter what. You know, inside every demon is a rainbow, of course. And I think for what it's worth, it is built on a great idea with many forms of potential. Sure, some can see it as a feeling a little underwhelming from some aspects we'll get into later, but everyone feels like a critic nowadays, so it's expected you were going to get that. But if I had to give a story score, I'm giving it probably an 8 out of 10. I think honestly it could work better as another aspect, but who am I to judge?
You don't even want to know what her deal is.
But of course now, with any old fable, there comes along those that are part of its, dear viewers, and this story is full of the strange and colorful characters that filled these halls and rooms of the hotel and the 7 points of the underworld, with many in varying form. I would love to give my full honest thoughts on it all, if you will enlighten me for a bit of your time. I'm sure to say the case that this series has seen some drama, as in between the series pilot and the full series on the streamers, that they decided to change most of the cast with some big names in the industry, and it did cause quite a stir, but I think that either one works, so to say. Not getting too much into the drama, because I'm not all for that shit. So let's just get to the enlightening of the staff and the guests. Let's start with the sweet child that leads the pack of it all, and that has to be the Princess of Hell herself, of Charlie Morningstar. She has that sense of seeing the good in people and will do whatever it takes to prove that her idea can work, and give all those evildoers a second chance, and that they were just misunderstood when everyone else around her thinks it may be a bad idea or will just not work. But she will try her best to prove herself that she can prove that everyone deserves a second chance, or do what's right for the different realm. I got the sense of relatable feeling from this peppy little bean of having a clear vision that even as the Princess of Hell, who you think would take great pleasure in the torture of other sinners, but she has a chirpy and loving attitude and wants the best for everyone, and that is what I like about her, and see myself in her as I would want to put the best for everyone and do what's right in a chirpy, happy way. Even if things can, of course, get you down, it can always get you back up. You can always get back up, even things seem dire. But I hope we get more of her in the future with her relationship with her family and her love with her next charming character on the group. And this, of course, comes with the Bean Pop's little girlfriend of Vaggie. She would be one that would support Charlie's ideals and goals and wants what's best for her, and help her in many ways to avoid straight catastrophe, while also dealing in the case of keeping some secrets of her own to not hurt those close to her. I will make sure that no one, no matter what in the ordeal, that she will do anything to make Charlie happy. How sweet. Sure, she may not delve a lot much besides being Deaf Charlie, but I'm sure we will get more of her in the new seasons to build on her more and develop her character and their relationship further, because I ship them fully. Now we talk on the most eccentric and most in-depth of a character that we know about at this time in the series, and this comes in the form of the eccentric, performative nature of one Angel Dust. Or I believe it's just Angel. Now, this character is known for the very beginning as the most well-established adult film stars in this part of the Underworld. They find any way possible having a good time and up for anything and anyone. While we feel we could write them off as a one-note character that's looking for finding themselves in bed with anyone, there is more deeper scared character hidden underneath, as we will learn around the middle part of the first season of their toxic work life by the hands of one of the renowned members of the Underworld with the Vees. The Vees, who are quite dashing characters that are a joy to tease, you sees. And learn that there's a lot more to do with this as they grow more and more, and with other characters are finding more of themselves, developing from one note to more established, and I must praise with how they take a form of handling it, but I will delve a little more onto that when we get to talking on the episode. And that section will not be as long as the last show I gave a really in-depth review for, but in that other show, it was not that good anyway, and I did want you to appeal with the torture. But all in all, what I was worrying was going to be a character I would be really annoyed by, turned into a favorite of mine, and hope to see him more building upon themselves in the upcoming season, as he can really put on a show. And speaking of, let's delve into the most mysterious character, and the one I'm trying to do an ideal look to for this story, and that is the host with a distinctive voice as we delve into the radio demon of Alastor. Now, this dashing fellow appeared at the door of the hotel near the end of the pilot and decided to make it their mission to get this insane idea into fruition, or more case, just to see this all fail for his amusement, and find a way to get a deal and plan it out no matter the costs. Now, this character is quite the mysterious, dangerous, and unpredictable of the bunch, as a lot of their history and origins remain a mystery. How quaint. But we will have the powers to strike a deal that is crossed and betrays will have their screams of the damned blare across the sound waves of the 7 rings of hell. So this is one demon you do not want to cross, so to say. Something about this character is so intriguing, from the vagueness of what they are, where they came from, where was he for the last 7 years, to suddenly appear again right in the middle of the land of sinners. Now, I for one love that feeling of building concepts of how it will work out, as well as theorizing how he died, where he came from, and what is his ordeal overall. But we'll learn more of the mystery of this character going forward, and how they will build a plan to total control of whatever they had planned. But I for sure am loving to hear how this broadcast shall play out over time. But if you think there's someone that you think may know everything or can sense to know it, it's always the most reliable source from the bartender, and that can be said from the grump himself of Husk. Now, he runs the bar of the hotel and has quite the appeal to playing the cards for the fresh dough, no matter how it comes to be. He seems to be the one that can read the tone that some have issues from the minuscule to the massive amount that you may not want to know. I heard the rumors and theories among the sound waves and on the streets from the denizens. They may have seen a bit of a former say he may be a spy or in the Secret Service that may tell how he can know everything. But those wires right now seem a little cross, but for what it is worth, I do appreciate the barkeep's hospitality through strange concoctions and his manner of grouchy asshole that has a softer side and help those in his own way, a piece I will discuss in the area of the show tune. But I do really like his character, while near the back half of the show he does not get much to do in particular, as he kind of becomes more of a side character or like a background character. I do hope we see more from the favorite barkeep down the line, because he is quite a favorite on the internet, on the information superhighway I've heard so much about. And with our previous example of our adult star, it seems to be shipping them a lot, but I'm sure we'll hear more down the line. We're lending an ear and pouring some decent drinks. Now we'll talk on another character that we'll also do not know a lot on, but has a sense of a personality, and that is with the little clean freak herself, the little freaky demon herself of Niffty. This little being is most associated with the radio demon, as he morphed her into existence and has the sense of loving to clean, is unhinged, and also loves the sense of pain, but it's also the case that she is a small being that you would be a delight to have in your establishment. Sure, we do not know a lot about her backstory, as she would be more of a side character amongst the group we follow, and like the radio demon in the dashing suit, we don't know too much on her background as of yet, but I'm sure we shall learn more of this small bundle of chaos in due course, but I like her presence so far. I know someone particularly out there is one of their fan favorite characters. In particular, with this next character, which is of a similar nature of experiencing a bit of a development over the course of the season, of tales that have come in the slithering menace of Sir Pentious. Seen as a form of overlord or hired weapon for the Vees, this snake man is a master of a weapons arsenal and his army of cracked egg boys, as he humbles servants, and how it starts with them being used as a spy for the enemy, as well as mainly going toward the radio demon himself. He soon learns that he is being used for his idiocracy and soon becomes misunderstood, and we'll soon see him on the path of redeeming himself. And it's a case that while he may disappear here and there in the episodes, he does get a little bit of a development over time, and I think it's honestly showing some form of spending time with some of these other colorful characters can help and show that everyone can have a second chance. And while the outcome I do not want to spoil, because I'm not for one of that, and that's the point that the show is not that great, in particular, you don't want to waste your time with it, but I feel there is some chance of something unique on the way real soon for the next season, so we'll have to tune in for that one, dear listeners. Now, we have talked on the princess, but I guess it means there's something else that's running the show of the entire world around him. That's, of course, with the big boss of hell himself, with Lucifer. Now, in many forms of literature, media, and entertainment properties of all you big minds out there, of course, Lucy is quite the looming, unnerving presence that he is one that runs the damned for eternity in a massive fiery hellscape, and while yes, he is still the big bad that runs the underworld, he has quite the issues, and this is quite the lovable little being. He is that connects to Charlie's little parental issues that she deals with, and there is a case that she will see the case of her coming to terms a bit with that of her father and her mother. The latter, I'm sure we will learn a bit more in the future, of course. We get hints of it, but not too much. He seems to have a sense of wanting to be there more for his daughter, but he has worried that he is out of touch, as well as being quite intimidated of the radio demon's more Ghanaian type nature to the inhabitants of the hotel's establishment, and especially to his daughter, and builds up more of wanting to do what's best to be there for his daughter, and hopefully we shall see more of this duck-loving overlord as this series goes on. He sure loves his ducks. And last of the focal characters that I will delve some time into before I give a quick explanation of all of those other denizens that don't have as big of a presence as the others, but we shall talk on the one other major player in the groups, and that is the character that's not of the underworld, but from the realm above, who will come down now and again to cause some bloodshed, as we are talking on the first man himself, of Adam. Now, if you have done some form of religious studies, you know that this is the first creation of the man in that garden, and now this form is a lot different, as he's a bit of a frat boy douchebag type that will be all up in your face and have that sense of not taking things seriously until things become serious or all that far-fetched, or it will affect him in some way. And he works as a villain that you hope to see get his comeuppance in any form of way. I think that he has a decent presence to prove that the first man can turn out to be the first big asshat. I'd also say that we may see more of the army executioners and his second in command have more of a prominence as this time goes on, but I guess we'll have to wait and see as the series develops, dear listeners, so stay tuned. Now, with all of those main center focus characters out of the way and given more of a focus, dear listeners, we shall have a fair few look at some of the other selective support characters that may not have as much of a presence as these characters we've already talked about, but I shall give them a few opinions on them when I can. So we shall start off the ones we've already mentioned in the past, and that's with the overlords known as the Vees, that consists of Vox, Valentino, and Velvette. These characters are more of a minor presence, with the character with most of the appearances with Valentino, who is the manager that has Angel on a leash, of a contract, and some form of appearance of the narrative that we are building in the character development of Angel that I am sure we will get more of in the following seasons. Vox would be the other one with a bit of a grudge against the radio demon of Alastor of radio versus television, and I'm sure we will see that battle continue again later on, but I'm sure it will give it all that Vees a presence and have them try and become a primary antagonist of later stories, especially with how the series' first season ends and establishes something is brewing. Now we shall go above the surface to land above the clouds as we talk on the characters of Sera and Emily, the High Council leader and her daughter of heaven, that sees the opinions of Charlie as a reasonable idea, but can see the case that the idea may not work, but is always worth a try. And you do not have much of a presence as of now, only appearing in about 2 of the later episodes, but I'm sure with how the season ended and will have to appear in another form soon with a developing outcome. Now the next focal character that has a form of connection with our dear Angel is with a chick with a bit of an attitude and a disrespect for fine craftsmanship of walls, as we talk another character introduced near the end with Cherry Bomb. Now, she appeared initially in the pilot, and then we got more of a character focus in the 5th or 6th episode. It appears till the end of the season, and we see her as being delusional about him changing, of Angel changing or hanging out with all those colorful casts we talked about already. And it is hard to put a point on the characters, it's only starting elements of their development, or getting to know them, and it's a case of getting a bit more fleshed out probably in the later seasons, but I'm sure we can categorize her as a so-so right now, but she seems like an interesting character. The second last character we'll learn about in the second last episode of the season is a woman that runs the District of the Cannibals, aptly dubbed Auntie Rosie, who seems like quite the intriguing character as of the moment, though while we only see her briefly in the last 2 episodes, intrigued by her look and mannerisms that I feel is not the last we will see of her, as she could be a helpful guide as to giving some background into the mysterious mystery, and all the history of the radio demon, but only time shall tell. And lastly, they have Mimsy. She exists. That's the end of her. So this brings everything together and all those colored inhabitants of the 7 sectors of the giant pentagram of hell, and many of them are quite the appealing factors. Sure, some may have some screws loose or missing parts in terms of giving them much of development, but that is what is expected when it comes to making a series, and sometimes you can build the character up more and more instead of dumping it all at once, and where is the fun in that? No joy knowing everything and feeling like a wet sponge of soaking up all the appeal. Sure, some will build on what's established, some have created some new stories, and others have a long journey ahead, but I'm certain that everything is quite an entertaining evening so far, with a colorful cast of characters that sure will bring appeal of knowing a lot more about them, or seeing more of that, but all that comes in due course, and works well with those who wait, dear viewers. So on that score-wise and the characters, I'm going to give a score of around an 8.5 to a 9, but we shall see how they develop over time. It could bring it up to a 10.
Bitch is halfway down the street. Is she? Oh, she's dancing.
Well now, dear viewers, we've delved into the story, and we've talked on the host of faces you'll see on your time in the fiery pits of hell, as now we shall talk on the basis of the actual fiery pit itself, and with a fine little piece it is. Granted, we know we may have seen all of the world so far, and seen some handfuls of locales, like some of the streets, the locales of Cannibal Town, the facilities of the Vees and the Overlords, and of course the place with the most character coming into focus with the hotel itself, and all of the rooms, settings, and places we see in this place below, as well as more to come from that establishment of many rooms, floors, hotels, and secrets to explore in that building, as well as a case of looking above in the bright place of heaven too. And I have to give in to the designers. They have done a fabulous job of what has been shown off to the messy place of sinners and evildoers. That's such life and misery that I must simply applaud them for their efforts. I'm certain it is not the last of this place or way of seeing, as I'm sure we will see a lot more in due time, but with more content and seasons on the way, as well as some from connectedness to another series that's been on the interwebs of the information superhighway for some time, that might connect over crossing some point in the future, but I wait in bated breath to see what she has to offer with everyone on board. It can also be said about the lovely familiar faces and how they are represented in the designs and looks that help to distinguish them, to know who's who, and to praise for some that since its pilot of the release that has given a slight change-up in looks and give a more appealing aesthetic, where maybe they were like very thin lines, and some of them now have more thick, detailed establishments to them, giving updates on their outfits as well. And this is especially noticeably with dear Vaggie and Alastor, as well as everyone getting slightly more detailed changes in character outputs to feel more structure of line detail, shapes and tone to show the difference of time, social to streaming, and a big old sack of cash will do to provide some new looks to keep it familiar, but upgrade to the new and improved visual style, and we can appreciate the look of them. And makes me wonder, will we see other designs and looks of the characters in other new or familiar places? I guess we'll have to stay tuned, new viewers. But their giving presentation, I think honestly, it deserves a 10. Well, that's my own proof your opinion.
Who wrote this?
It's great, right?
Well now, viewer, I shall present an aspect that might be a slight bit on the weaker side, and that comes in the form of some of the writing. Not to say the case that the writing is bad or anything, as I enjoy a lot of it. It mainly came down to the world building and the lore that was presented briefly in the original pilot, a topic I will discuss when I get to the episodes, as really only mentioned briefly in episode or two when compared to the other element about the overpopulation of hell or the annual cleansing from the executioner. Now while I feel that it's early days and they wanted to tackle the basis of that first, I'm sure that we will see a return to the focus of a power control of overthrowing certain overlords or higher points of power and take control, but I'm sure we will see it as the series continues. But I will provide dear viewers that there's some good bit of lore, stakes, some humor, tone, and use of character development, and for moving the quick-paced story that sometimes can be a lot to handle at once, but it happens in shows with styles like this. But I think overall it's still a valiant attempt. So on score-wise for the writing, I'm going to give around a 7 to maybe 7.5 out of 10.
Something tells me that today will be a happy day in hell.
And the last of the praise passes I will give is that they sure went all out with the use of their show tunes to really get people engaged in the music of the show, where every episode of the first saga consists of 2 new tracks, with added to the original pilot of around 3, brings it around 19 tracks to shake your faint. A lot of them have become a popular use, especially some of my favorites of Lose a Baby, Stayed Gone, Hell's Greatest Dad, Prepared for This, Poison, and so many more. Sure, some of them I may not be as familiar with their lyrics, of course, and will provide a sing-song to, but I will sure leave them to some other videos. But it will cost you, of course. It costs a deal on this channel for me to actually give a damn of actually recording some of these covers of songs. But all in all, I think there's some better than others, but I will have to listen to the soundtrack more to fully appeal to the love of it all. But I do many of them already, and look forward to more in the future with the upcoming second season. So if I had to give some form of points to the music, I'm going to give it a score between 9 to 10 out of 10. I think honestly it might change more towards a 10 when I actually listen a bit more to the soundtrack, but I love the soundtrack all the same.
Wow! That was shit.
And now, of course, there comes a point that there can be a few issues or problems, as not everything is perfect, unless you count the attempt of review in this voice, or myself. Even though I know myself, I'm not perfect. I've got issues. Anyway, and in most cases this has some small nitpicks that you would squish with improvements over time, but we can get to talking on that here. So we'll start with the story. Mainly on the story front has to do with some aspects feeling a little rushed, and we'll also tackle into the elements with the writing. But I think it can be expected that if you're trying to present a narrative in all 8-episode arc, where back in the day it was around 20 episodes or so, but I think they would work in the confines of what they had in numbers. They wanted to establish on one side first, and then build more other aspects with later seasons and episodes. Next on then is characters. If there is a complaint to it, it's like that some characters may get introduced a little late into the narrative in this season to really get to know them, and in the likes of some of the established characters that we may know some elements on getting either sidelined in the latter half or not get too much in terms of development. But then again, I said having fully defined characters that we know everything about would make them pointless in sticking around, so it makes sense to give them some more time to breathe and build on their development over time. Next in writing, as I mentioned, elements in the story on some aspects missing, like the fight for control, and some of it getting gone by quick, but I guess we gotta focus on one building narrative at a time, and over the seasons or episodes piece them together to their conclusion. Don't we, folks? Because, you know, you can't build a foundation without building a house. I think I mixed that up, but you get the idea. The music-wise, it's just a small nitpick, but I can agree on the certified the soundtrack slaps, as I will need to listen to the tracks more to agree if they're all great or some are here and there, but there's a small nitpick of mine. It's not fully a case saying that the soundtrack sucks. It is a great soundtrack. It's just more a case, dear listeners, that I need to listen more to the songs to get my appeal in them. But that's really all I have to give on complaints. So now we shall wrap it up by telling how the series plays out, but in a non-spoiler way, as I'm not like that, unless something, of course, as I mentioned, is very bad.
What just happened? Fuck.
So with the basis, I've went on long enough with delving into the practical side of things, of talking the technical side of the foundations of the show, but now let's delve into building onto the show itself. Now this is not going to be like that vile, hateful, self-centered series of a show I did last, where I talked about the whole episodes, because they were not worth your time. And as of recording this, apparently the second season has dropped in the surface world above, but that's going to be a long time coming before I eventually do that, if I even reach the goal point they mentioned in my videos. But I will give some briefest of descriptions for the other episodes, unless there is an episode I enjoy a lot, and we'll talk on why. Something I know at least one of the next shows I will do will be getting some in-depth discussions on most of the episodes, but in particular, I'm just going to focus on giving a more in-depth discussion on the first episode, as well as the basis with this one of the exception with the pilot, of course. So let's get into talking about them now.
It was a quick cash grab. You got it?
So we shall start the story where it all began, with the tale that began the focus of this series, and that is with the freely available pilot found right on the webpage known as YouTube, where we will introduce to the main new locale of the series with hell itself. The focal point of the beginning of the episode is showing the denizens of hell returning back to living their lives in pain and bloodshed as they delve into showing the aftermath of the most recent depopulation slaughtering from the executioners through the song of I'm Always Chasing Rainbows, sung by our dear Charlie, who we will get glimpses at first before we get introduced to her personality a short bit later. Before we got to the main focus of the start of the episodes, we get introduced to another recurrent character in the form of Angel, who has been doing some, hobbies.
I can't let it get out I'm offering my services to randos on the street. It was a quick cash grab. You got it?
Whatever you say, slut.
Of his profession, where while trying to source some nose candy, gets mugged, lose the contents, and then ends up in the midst of a battle for turf obtainment from Sir Pentious by teaming up with Cherry Bomb. While this is happening, we get properly introduced to Charlie and Vaggie, who have come onto the set of 666 News for her to introduce her concept of the hotel and to redeem sinners that, while is more nervous from talking normally, she kicks up a little ditty to say that inside every demon is a rainbow, but gets belittled by the unsettling and slightly homophobic bitch newscaster of Katie Killjoy and co-anchor Tom Trench.
Say it's a pleasure to meet you, but that would be a lie. You can put that away. I don't touch the gays.
One news report and sing-song later.
Wow! That was shit.
And mentions their first client of Angel and has been clean for around 2 weeks, but then gets shown that all has gone downhill.
Oh, harder, Daddy! Son?
Before there is tension in the studio and out of the turf being cut into the two girls in the car of Angel and giving them an earful of making Charlie feel worse about her idea, that can work. But at this point then we get the first look of the hotel in its fine state, and it seems to be a bit of a disarray with boarded up doors, crates and appliances strewn across the room, and most distinguishing aspects being the empty bar, some funky furniture, and a rose glass printed door with some displays of some eyes and apples, where Charlie finds herself here calling her mother instead of her father, to see if there's any sign of her of needing help and feeling that her idea is a failure. That is until there is a knock at the door and we're introduced to the finely dressed radio demon himself of Alice.
Yes. Excuse me. Do you know the way...
Hey, Vaggie?
A name that is known of being a bit sinister with the two girls, but a certain adult star has never heard of them. Soon the demon offers a sense of wanting to help them make the place an attraction that will prove the idea is quite the most insane that it may just work. Or more case, he's just in it for sinister intentions for seeing it fail, all for his amusement. While the radio demon gives some insight of helping sweet little Charlie, Vaggie gives a bit of an extensive backstory about who he is, about being a sinister demon that appeared many years ago that brought control of the land, that put him on the level of power as the overlord. If it is those that cross him, then they will not see their chance of living long and after, and be taking control with their soul taken and played across the airwaves with their tormented screams of all eternity. Not while shaking on it, of course, though Angel does seem him a simple strawberry pimp. So Charlie makes a deal and not shaking on it, and soon Alastor works his strange powerful magic to spruce up the place, and in the process brings in some new assistants in the form of our little small demon gremlin of Niffty, who's quite a clean freak.
Oh man, this place is filthy. It really needs a lady's touch, which is weird because you're all ladies, no offense.
As well as the drunkard barkeep of Husk from Thin Air.
What? You think you can buy me with a wink and some cheap booze? Well, you can!
While it seems that some aspects are not fully on the positive outcome yet, as well as the basis of personal space, it also comes to the finish with a little fix-up by the use of some little dark magic and a sing-song, before it's rudely interrupted by Purchase and his ship, but gets cleared up in seconds, leaving to them creating the plans for getting the message out there, before we end with the pilot there with a slight name change in the hotel and a lingering aura to remind us to stay tuned. The rewatching the pilot after all of this time is quite the interesting aesthetic, as it shows that it has come a long way with the likes of some of the more detailed designs of the characters and changes of how they looked in the beginning to where we see them now. And I think it has helped set the tone of what is to come to the future of content. Sure, some elements of the pilot look like the turf war element may not be lost in translation for the full picture show of the first season to come, but most of the other elements are there, but I'm sure we will see them built upon in due time. So to give a score for the pilot, I'm going to give a decent solid 8 out of 10. It's a very popular one, so I'm going to go with that. So now we've gone from YouTube pilot to the picture show on the extensive streaming services as we jumped to the Amazon official series, and we will give this one a delving into and talking on what to expect from this series. So we start the episode with a bit of a backstory about the creation of the universe, Adam, Eve, and the kingdom of heaven, and how Lucifer became known as a fallen angel and soon found love from a woman named Lilith, the first woman as well, and created the underworld of hell, while also explaining what the angels created a group of executioners to stop the sinners of hell rebelling with an annual cleansing. We then are introduced to Charlie and Vaggie a week after the pilot aired, where we will learn about the basis that her mother Lilith has been missing for around 7 years now, which also coincides with the radio demon of Alastor returning after a 7-year absence. And speaking of the radio demon, he has made an effort to create a form of video advertising for the picture box to conjure up appeal for the concept, but seems to have missed the mark and makes it look worse.
So, what do you think?
I'm sorry, what the was that?
It then becomes a case of Vaggie trying to help make a proper advertising for the hotel that is a bit more appealing, and while that is happening, Charlie has gone off to the Citadel of Heaven building all through a sing-song of a happy day in hell.
Just don't sing to them.
That bitch is halfway down the street.
Is she?
Oh, she's dancing.
While violence, torment, and sinners and sinful acts are all taking place around her. Before she enters the conference and introduced to one of the main antagonists of the series of Adam, where he seems to shoot the breeze and waste time with his second in command of Loot, where Charlie's looking to give her insight of a hotel idea. While that is going on, Vaggie is trying to make a better and with the inhabitants of the hotel, with some mixed results, with Angel giving a bit too much, Husk not giving much, and Niffty...
cut.
made the effort. So going back to the meeting, Charlie finally gives her insight for her hotel idea through the power of music, and speeding through this before her song is overtaken by Adam in explaining that hell is forever, and, you know, ripping a guitar solo, fuck yeah. And that things like this won't work, and that now instead of returning in a year, they will now be back for a cleansing in half that time in 6 months. Returning to the hotel, Vaggie was ready to show the new commercial to Charlie before they are interrupted by the newscasters, telling that the new occasion is now closer by half a year.
Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel.
I've interrupted this broadcast to remind you to subscribe to my channel.
Now, part of the reason of the move up is possibly to do with her concept idea, but the real truth is discovering that one of the executioners had been killed and is looking to find out someone in hell had done so, and plans to kill every single sinner with the next cleansing, and this brings the episode to an end. Now, I think for the first episode it sets up a solid concept, builds on one of the ideas in the pilot, brings up the one that causes it, and sets in stone of the dilemma that will present for the ongoing season, and so far is a good solid entry. While some of the secondary story goes by quick and feels a little rushed with some pacing of both stories, I think it's a very good starting episode for building on what's to come, dear viewers, but let's wait and see. So to score this one, I'm going to give it between an 8 and a 9.
Salutations! Good to be back on the air!
Now the next wave episodes, unless one stands out as important, I will be giving some aspects of the plot of these episodes. So the general plot summary for this one is with the idea of being introduced to the characters of the Vees. Valentino, the head of the adult film industry that has Angel under a threatening contract, Velvette, a fashion designer with a bit of a sassy attitude, and the head of the tree of Vox, a demon with the power of controlling of electricity, mind control through the power of advertising, and new big shot of video over the old ways of things, and becomes a bit more of an unstable connection for Vox when he learns of the radio demon's return as being a somewhat threat.
The radio demon is there.
What did you just say?
All done in quite the catchy tune of Stayed Gone to the airwaves, which leads to them sending in someone to disguise as a sinner looking to redeem themselves, who in the first half tried to destroy the building to rubble, and this is in the form of Sir Pentious.
The bad boy is back! Never leave me again.
And his egg boys that will bear uncertainty at first, especially from Angel, and a bit with Alastor. It is at first proven true before there is a chance of helping him change his ways. All we know is that it starts with sorry.
I hated that song! Why are you so lame? Not a bad boy.
In all honesty, it's a very decent episode, setting up characters for the later part of the season, and while two of them don't get much of a presence till near the very end, as well as building on some character development for others, well, mainly the likes of the Snake Boy, but still a good episode with some good music that is affected by later episodes of underusing some other antagonists. But the episode-wise, I'm going to give a 7 to an 8.
Do you mind? I'm in the middle of breakfast.
Now, episode 3 would be, to me and others, a somewhat of the weakest episode of the first season, of not adding too much substance substance while having some good ideas in there as well. The main focus of this comes in the form of two stories, with the A-plot focusing on the hotel's guests and crew, with Charlie, Vaggie, Angel, Husk, Niffty, and Serpentious learning on the basis of trust and bond for one another, as things can be a little on edge.
Sometimes I kill mother bugs in front of their children as a warning to others. Yay, pain!
Especially we're not fully trusting Serpentious at the moment after what happened at the end of the last episode, with some varying forms of success or outcome. Meanwhile, with the B-plot, Alastor has been assigned by Vaggie to do something about Pentious's egg boys, which he uses as some henchman. He's invited to a meeting by Zestial of all the overlords, with it run by him and Camilla Carmine, the overlord of Hell's weapons supplies. Now, after a bit of a dispute with the heads of the meeting and Velvette over tune of respectless about the dead executioner head that they have, it is discovered that Carmine may have been the one that has killed it, but it's not explained how of yet. They may have vaguely mentioned, but I'm not going to tell on what it is. In the end, there is some info to take from future episodes, and on the other plot sees them seeing some building bond with everyone in that hotel before the episode ends there. Overall, while it's not a bad episode and is still quite good with two good songs, with the other being Whatever It Takes, it can be a bit of imbalance of how the crew doing a bit of some hijinks and misadventures at the hotel while some plot continues with the Alastor plot, but I still will not say it is a bad episode. So scoring wise now, I'm thinking around between 6.5 to 7.5.
Cause I know you're poison, you're feeding me poison. Addicted to this feeling I can't help but swallow.
Now, dear viewers, I must give a little warning that I will give a bit more in-depth discussion for this episode, as it does contain themes about sexual violence, so just be a little warned if you're a bit uncertain. I'll put a timestamp down below if you want to skip this little episode in particular. Now, this one has been labelled as the most liked of the season and series so far, as it delves into some more mature themes, but also gives a most of character and fan favourite of Angel. Now, as mentioned in the previous description, Angel is under the control of Valentino to work for him in countless adult films, as a case that he's brought a sense of annoyance for Charlie of wanting him to help in the running and proving the hotel is a good idea and success. She goes to the studio and tries to get Angel back by talking with the director and being quiet on the set as things fall apart. It then leads to Angel being assaulted by Valentino, reminding him that he has control of his soul, and then makes him get rid of Charlie and forced to undertake extensive filming and abuse from the Vees and the other participants, all shown from the montage The Song of Poison.
You know she can't do anything. I own you, or have you forgotten that?
Now, this leads to Angel returning to the hotel and have a bit of an argument with Husk relating back to a discussion from the start of the episode. Now, I had to mention that a certain adult film Angel did involving an interrogation scene was unrealistic, and the basis that he can read a person from some form of their issues, like Charlie having daddy issues or parental issues, Vaggie hiding a secret of her past, Serpentious has a bit of a complex mindset, and you don't want to know more about Niffty because there's a whole thing to unpack with her.
Niffty? Yeah. You don't even want to know what her deal is.
And sends Angel off in a bad mood for calling him fake.
I see right through you and all this bullshit and how fake you are.
Now, with Vaggie trying to make her sweet Charlie feel better, she sends Husk off to go get Angel before something bad happens. And it does nearly happen when he stops him from getting drugged with a spiked drink. While continuing to form an argument, they get to the reason of a dark reason why Angel lets Valentino beat him until he is broken and ruined, so he will not be needed anymore and to leave him alone.
If I can ruin myself enough in the process, if I end up broken, I won't be his favorite toy anymore. And maybe he'll let me go.
Husk then gives his own side that he is like Angel, with trapped with a deal he made with the radio demon himself to keep his powers that connects to his addiction to gambling, soon share a bond with this through one of my favorite tracks of the show with Loser Baby.
You're a loser just like me.
Before they are jumped to this gang with a bar before they deal with them and form a friendship. They return to the hotel where Angel makes amends with Charlie. All is well and basically leads to some minor conflicts. Now, I really like this episode in particular because it doesn't shy away from the basis about, sometimes these contracts or, industries can be quite dangerous and abusive. And I think in the case instance of we thought that Angel was going to be just this one-note character, and there's some elements of it, but I think honestly delving more into about is why does he do the focus of working with this abusive dickhead, and in case of why he's a bit like this, but he has to put up with it, is very intriguing. And I think honestly they did well with the story. I hope we see more of this developing character with him over the course of the next series, of course, as well as some other characters like Husk get to learn more about his backstory, but so far I think it's a great decent episode, and I would definitely score it a 9 or even a 10. I think honestly it's a very good episode, and it delves into the theme. Sure, they could have extended on more and could have overblown it, but I think they do a fair balance of it.
Take that, depression!
Now, speaking of some devilish fellows, episode 5 brings in the introduction of the big boss of hell himself with Lucifer, who you think will be more sinister man, but in reality is a small little sugar lump with a love for rubber duckies. In this episode, Charlie is stressing about trying to make the idea work and finding a way to get another meeting with the kingdom above that it leads to her deciding to get her dad's help, who has been a bit of a recluse as well as following Lilith's disappearance and the form of the depressive state that has made his relationship with his daughter a little strained. He makes his presence to the hotel, learns of ideas, and wants to help as best he can to show that he is hell's greatest dad.
Looks like you could use some help from the big boss of hell himself. Check out Daddy's glowing reviews on Yelp. 5-star! Flawless! Really great!
So he seems to be focused on butting heads with the radio demon and feeling a little bit awkward with her daughter, but wants to try his best to help her with her idea. At the same time of them song fighting along comes along another expected guest that does not add much to the story, and that is with the character of Mimsy. Who may be here looking for help from the radio demon, and that is brought up to him in Husk, who nearly gets taken out by the demon for questioning his power of owing a debt to another. Something that may be brought up later, probably, but I'm sure later in the series.
I will tear your soul apart and broadcast your screams for every other disrespectful wretch who dares to question me.
While that goes on, the reason for Mimsy's appearance becomes clear. She has messed with the wrong group of loan sharks, but they are taken care of very quickly with the assistance of Alastor, and then Mimsy is told to leave, ending her appearance for the season. I'm sure we'll probably get more of her later and maybe become a likable character, but so far, she's not really that much case anyway. Meanwhile, Lucy feels a bit uncertain of her plan, and Lucy sees Sinners as being unreasonable to change, but soon sees that Charlie has some good intentions. They reconcile and showing he cares for her more than anything in the 7 circles, and makes it a deal to set up a meeting with those upstairs, and that ends this episode. Now, while this is a lot more moving parts, it does bring in some appealing aspects like seeing Lucifer in this form, a bit of some lore to the mysterious well-dressed radio demon, and building to the upcoming threat. Sure, it is taken aback by the appearance of a character that is just placed in for adding another form of a side story that doesn't give much to the other characters to do, but it's a decent episode of a watch all the same. So score-wise, 8.5 kind of thing for episode 5.
Welcome to heaven. Where the virtuous reside.
So this episode will see Charlie, accompanied by Vaggie, up to the pearly gates so that they are welcomed to heaven, and she has a meeting with the head of discussion of Sera's about her concept of redeeming sinners with her hotel to get into heaven.
My dad got me this meeting, so maybe try Lucifer? Morning Star?
Oh!
While dealing with the return of the leader of the executioners of Adam and Luke, trying to prove that there is not a sign of that working, which may be true but can be tried as they didn't know about these yearly cleansing. Meanwhile, back in the Underworld, we see the return of a character from the pilot in the form of Cherry Bomb appears and helps Angel to prove how much he has changed and improved since starting this process with the others at a bar with Husk, Niffty, and Penches, who has become a bit smitten with this pyrotechnic and quite a bit of a lover boy, and shows there's some redeeming aspects of him standing up against his boss and showing signs of a positive change when Cherry may be trying to get him back to his old self. In the process of all this, there is back and forth, a secret reveal, and a concluding threat that they will be there real soon, ending that episode there. Now, another one that has some revealing aspects and decent concepts, but building on the development of Angel and some of the other characters that I feel works to some extent, can build to the threat in the end being a lot more bigger. Sure, some of the aspects can feel a little mixed, and the tracks in the episode are a bit here and there in terms wise of their music tracks, but it's still an enjoyable episode that has some connective repercussions of how the season will conclude. So scoring this 6th episode of Welcome to Heaven, I'm giving around a 7 to 8.
And although I kind of feel unsteady, now I need to be ready for this.
So in episode 7 of Hello Rosie, we've reached the penultimate episode of the first season that has quite decent setup build for the upcoming finale that will see us introduced to one more character that has spawned a bit of a popular favorite online in the form of Aunt Rosie, and the head honcho that runs the district of Cannibal Town, who will help Charlie with the assistance of Alastor in her side of saving hell from the upcoming cleansing by gathering up an army of cannibals to help in the form of song, as well as dealing with Susan? and hoping that everything will be ready for this. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, Vaggie wants to make it up for Charlie for lying to her by going to Carmine, learning about how they can kill an executioner, as she learned it from one of the Egg Boys, and these are being trained in how to fight back again and save their home out of love, and build to a climactic battle in the following episode. While this could have ended up being messy, it does balance it out well of them building up to the finale, and both sides are interesting approaches to the story that pay off. Most complaints I can give is that some of the other side characters like Husk, Angel, and maybe Niffty kinda are absent for this episode, as it's more focused towards Charlie, Vaggie, and Alastor, but I'm sure they will use more for them all together in the final stamp. So scoring-wise on this, I'm gonna give an 8 to 8.5.
How about this? If you see an angel, stab it.
Now it is time to wrap up all these episodes with the final confrontation as the forces of hell, led by Charlie, Vaggie, and the rest of the guests and crew of the hotel, set up against an army of the heavens above and saving the lands from a total bloodbath and decimation, and having a way to stop the executioners, as full of action, excitement, likable character development, great songs with more than anything reprise, as well as the finale song being a bit of a reprise to Happy Day in Hell, all in a final outcome to see who will be victorious, the aftermath of the battle, and where will this story lead to now in the coming seasons or episodes of the future. Only time will tell, dear viewers, so stay tuned. Now I will delve into some of what happened in the episode, but as I said, I do not want to give many spoilers, and this one does have a fair amount of spoilers, and I would say it is worth a check out yourself instead of all the better as some elements of this ends lead into intriguing aspects for season 2. Is there some problems? Sure, it can feel a little bit quick with the confrontation, and maybe some aspects of the characters feel slightly underused, but I think for what it's worth, it does end off well on a high note for a conclusion of starting season for looking forward to more for upcoming entertainment purposes of the picture show. So episode 8 is getting a score of 8.5 to a 9, and for that is the full breakdown and formal breakdown for the first season to the series that I will give for this time. So I can tell that some love and energy can be put into this project, and it was well made. Sure, they're not all perfect, with elements feeling lacking in some episodes compared to others. Maybe some minor aspects about what was established in the pilot may not be lost in the season, but I'm sure he will build to it in the upcoming projects, and hopefully it will work itself out over time to make it one of the better shows of recent memory to glue your looking orbs to, of course, dear viewers. So scoring wise of all collectively together, rounding them up, a total between, out of 90, we're looking between 70 to 76 and a half, or around a 7.8 to 8.5 out of 10.
Never mind, I'm out.
So as we wrap up this show, dear viewers, what started as a concept of those years ago from a young animator with an idea morphed its way to a very popular tester pilot, all the way to a concluding full season that came along and proved with enough faith and hope that it will all work out in the end to a series that has proven itself to be quite a success. From an interesting story built from lore and interesting characters to have some intriguing development, or some yet to come, will all come together with something fun and interesting to watch. Does it have its problems? Why, certainly it does, dear listeners, as most things do, as things can be a little mixed in the content and execution that can be fixed upon future entries. But don't deny it. It'll be worth another visit for a fun, happy day in hell real soon, as well as the case if you're going to get more show tunes, especially given that that soundtrack was in the top spot for over a month, maybe even 2. Who knows? But to round up the final scores for this entire project, we're looking at story around an 8, characters an 8.5 to a 9, a presentation a 10, writing a 7 to 7.5, music a 9 to a 10, and episodes around 7.8 to 8.5, giving a total out of 60 between 50.3 and 53 out of 60, or a total of around 83.83% or 88.33%, which gives it around a B+ or A- score. So, well done, Hazbin Hotel. Great work, and I can't wait to check in on the picture show in the future for more misadventures with this crew of hell denizens. Well, dear viewer, that is quite a swell show that we have had, and brings it to an end. Quite a tear to my eye, I will say. If you joined this little chit-chat and would like to hear more from me, then please go on the interwebs and tell me your thoughts, and would do love to hear your own opinions on this little ditty of a show there too. What did you like about it? What did you dislike about it? What are you different about? I'd love to hear every single aspect of it down below. And if you like my stuff and want to see more, then like my videos and subscribe, as I upload nearly every week, and these reviews I'm going to try and pump that more and more. And if you like what I did here with this voice, or you want me to shut up, you can tell me down in the comments as well too, so I apologize. This is only a gimmick for this episode. Anyways, until next time, dear viewers, a reminder to stay being wonderful people, have a great day every day, keep being you, and don't forget to smile. So take care, and I'm signing off now, and Farewell, dear viewers. Until next time.